be calling Dominic. Musije mukashindwa bona Prof ako commanding. It's not commanding, it's the way we talk. Please Dominic, tuliambiana when we are online, unatuambia. Are we online?
Yes.
Okay, we behave appropriately. Eh? So, okay, so we are now online. So then it means the discussions we are having, we are sharing it with our colleagues, our professional colleagues within the country and out of the country. So first of all, it's my humble pleasure to welcome you to the KLA conference and AGM 2024. We shall be having a more formal opening tomorrow. And of course, during the AGM, I will give what traditionally we call the chairman's report. So I cannot talk much about what the association has achieved in the last 2 years, for that is part of what will happen on Friday. So for today, mine is to appreciate you for coming to join us in this conference, and to appreciate the topic at hand, artificial intelligence. And when we talk of artificial intelligence, it emanates from big data and machine learning. Big data to me is important because when we talk of data, data is of course unstructured, and once you structure it, it becomes information. So there is this line that starts with the data, information, and information becomes knowledge. And of course, we use knowledge for decision making. So when you hear people saying we are doing data-driven decisions, what they are actually saying is they are putting knowledge management applications in terms of making a decision. So it's data, information, knowledge. Hence, my keynote will delve upon knowledge management versus information management. Tomorrow, given a chance, or Wednesday, I will come again to you and discuss about your role in SDGs. This presentation somehow is aligned to the presentation I made last week on Saturday in Dubai during the Dubai International Library Conference, where again I was one of the keynote speakers, and my talk was more or less on the same topic. So allow me to, in the next 30 minutes or so, give you an overview of KM. So when I use the term KM, you don't know, I don't mean knowledge management. And IM is, of course, information management. So I look at the evolution and the trends over the years. Then look at the most impactful studies, but in so doing also try to analyze the key ones which are more common in those studies so that we can be able to look at patterns and emerging trends. In so doing, I will be using some principles of bibliometrics analysis, that is the studies that we use to research the scientific output and patterns of publications of scholars, bibliometrics analysis. I will be using a lot of that. So let us introduce the topic. KM and IM, they are interrelated in many ways. However, KM is usually about creating knowledge sharing within an organization, both explicit, that is knowledge that has already been captured, and tacit, knowledge that is in our mind, that we know, but has not been captured. It is usually very easy to manage explicit knowledge because it has been captured, and we can even use technology to manage it. But when it comes to tacit knowledge, that's where complications tend to lie, because it has not yet been captured. But we shall be discussing more about how it can be shared. IM, on the other hand, is collection, organization, and storage of data. In a way, IM is technology-centric. KM is people-centric. In a nutshell, when we talk of KM, we are talking about people up there, processes on one side, and the other side, technology. But when you talk of IM, it is usually technology-driven, processes-driven, but without being centric to the human components, that is the people. I'll be sharing the PowerPoint, but it's okay, you can continue taking notes, because some people take notes when presentations are going on as a way of keeping alert. Okay. But I promise you my PowerPoint slides are not with so much notes. I try to make them colorful so that people may not those. So one of the most important things, especially for those who are doing masters or anticipating to do PhDs in KM or IM, is to think about the timelines. How did it all start? IM is much, much older than KM because it started approximately in 1961, but KM is a relatively newer discipline. However, the father of knowledge management is Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker in 1959 started saying, forget about all of these engineering concepts you are giving us, agricultural input. We have arrived in the era where the worker, the knowledge worker, kama ni accountant, kama ni daktari, is the most important person within the organization. The worker, the person who is holding the knowledge. He did not use the term knowledge management, but he talked of knowledge worker. Peter Drucker is a celebrated management guru. He died way back in 2004, but he was so celebrated to an extent in 2002 or 2003, where thereabout, Harvard University, they named an entire management school to Peter Drucker School of Management. And when you see a university like Harvard glorifying you when you are still alive and naming an entire school of management to answer your name, it means you are a guru. So after you think of Peter Drucker, then if you try to go for a Viva, be it master's or PhD, on knowledge management, and you don't talk about Michael Polanyi, my friend, you'll be in problem. Tacit knowledge, the one that I've mentioned, being very hard to measure. So Polanyi, 1966, talked of we know more than we can tell. For example, I can stand here for 1 hour, talk about knowledge management, but that does not mean I will say everything. I will still be left with some of the knowledge. We know more than we can tell. And what he meant by that is what he coined as tacit knowledge. Knowledge that is hard to share because it is in people's mind. And it is this knowledge, when you share it, that differentiates knowledge management from any other discipline like information systems or information management. The aspect of tacit knowledge. That was way back 1966. There was a bigger break until Peter Senge, he is a guru of the running organization. When we hear people saying our organization embraces principles of running organization, what they are basically saying is they are into knowledge management, which is on giving programs within the organization that will keep people always having running as component of what they do. For example, medicine is a typical case. As soon as you get into the medical profession, you continue standing until the time that you retire and post-retirement. And our profession is also going to, that's why like we are here today, because we have got good knowledge acquired through our degrees, but we feel when we attend conferences, there is always something to learn. So after Peter Senge, then this gentleman called Lave and Wenger, this is Lave and this is Etienne Wenger. Not Wenger of, sijui, inaitwa nini hiyo team? Arsenal. Etienne Wenger. Now, their notion is people run in a community of practice. Straight-end running. About formal running, the notion here is when people sit together, get a domain or a subject, discuss about that subject in an ongoing manner, informally, running takes place. And actually, they even used very simple examples of women who are involved in weaving and doing some of those informal aspects and how running was taking place. So when it comes to certain tacit knowledge, one method that is acclaimed to work tends to be communities of practice. So much research has gone into communities of practice. Even some people have gone on to see how IT can be used as an enabler towards communities of practice. And when we use ICTs, sometimes they then call it networks of practice. If you want to go that route, the gurus in networks of practice is Paul Hildreth and Chris Kibo. They have done so much work, Chris Kibo and Paul Hildreth, on communities of practice using ICT. So, 1995, we almost got a breakthrough. Our guru, Nonaka and Takeuchi from Japan, they came up with a study where they talked of the knowledge creation organizations or companies of Japan. So after their extensive study, they came up with what they said, colleagues, in order for you to manage knowledge, you have to capture it, you have to create it. But then how do you create it? After the extensive research, they came up with a model we call ZEKI, socialization, externalization, combination, and internalization. So Nonaka and Takeuchi, if you dare do masters or this is PhD, and you don't mention about Nonaka and Takeuchi and their model of knowledge creation, sometimes we call it spiral model of Zeki, my friend, you'll be in problem during the Viva. Musiseme Gatiti akuambia. Nonaka and Takeuchi. So much that if you even go to Google Scholar, put their name, you will see their single paper with over 2,000 citations. That is how powerful their research was. Then after that, Thomas Stewart came up with the aspect of intellectual capital. Intellectual capital is what we have in our minds, and the notion here was that in an institution, let's say, let me use Safaricom. Assuming Safaricom has people who are so much polished in terms of their professionalism, and so many of them, that is intellectual capital. So the sum of intellectual capital in a given organization comprises of what now you would call the knowledge management audit of what kind of knowledge management level of skills do we have in that particular organization. After that, then Davenport and Prusak, Lawrence Prusak is this one, and this is Davenport, Tom Davenport. These two gurus, I believe from I think MIT and Stanford, they now came up on how we can use technology to enhance knowledge management. And they wrote so many papers for Harvard Business Reviews and all that. After that now, 1998, from the year 2000, knowledge management started appearing in our curriculums. You do not see any university in the 90s having taught knowledge management. I'm a lucky person because by 2003, when I was doing my degree at Ravara University, among the key modules that we went through was information and knowledge management. So it started now from 2000, and from there now it has been a trajectory. So that is the origin. Allow me to, at this point, showcase 1987 is when it started appearing in our literature of publications. And I tend to use bibliometrics so much when I'm doing my research. So for this, I captured using a tool called Scopus. I put these tools so that in case someone would like to do the same for my topic or a different topic, the results you capture should be mirror what I've captured. So the first paper appeared in 1987, and you can see the trajectory until the time of 2008, and this was COVID. After COVID, we stopped that, came back, but now there has been at the level of study. Now, let me do the same for IM. Remember I told you IM started in 1961, that is publications. So you'll see IM there, but even after starting, up to 1985, it was not actually growing. So there is a correlation then to say when KM came 1987, the influence of KM also made IM starts having trajectory. But from there now, the trajectory was on the increase until COVID. It came down, but then it has gone back up. The other key question is, how do the two intersect? Intersection means if I went to research for the last 10 years papers on knowledge management and papers on information management, which particular papers talk about both IM and KM in a single research? So there are actually 829 between 2014 and 2023, where this blue is KM, green is IM, and red is where both KM and IM are repeated in the same paper. Karibuni sana. So the yearly trends is where we can claim there has been steady increase between, for the last 10 years. I'm not considering 2024 because scholarly papers for 2024 indexing is still ongoing. Then IM reached peak 2022 at 4,618 papers and remained high at 4,512 in 2023. KM followed similar pattern with a peak last year at 4,000 papers in a single year, over 4,000 papers. So because we are trying to look at the trends for KM and to think about the future trends, then it is only fair for me to examine the most used keywords in KM for the last 10 years. So forget about KM itself, because as a must, when you put a paper on information literacy, then it is also information literacy will be one of the keywords. But other keywords than KM itself is knowledge acquisition. Meaning, if you are taking research on knowledge acquisition, you will get a good extent of research papers. Extreme learning machine, which is the same as machine learning, and is to an extent learning algorithms follow suit. This is actually AI. Machine learning, we use it to denote AI. Knowledge transfer between individuals, between departments, and within organizations is also very well represented. Running systems, the likes of Mundu and other LMS. Knowledge sharing, which is an area I've got some passion for, and organizational learning of Peter Senge. So much of that. On the other hand, when I go to IM, let us forget IM itself. Remember, I told you IM is technology-centric. So here is data management, data which is unstructured, which after you structure becomes information. Then digital storage, you can see some aspects of technology here. Decision making, that is now using information for decision making, which is basically knowledge management. Big data, when you see machine learning, big data, those are some components of AI. Then Internet of Things, data handling, all the way to resource management. So, in a nutshell, if I was to do a high-level overview of IM and KM research priorities for the last 10 years, it is IM itself, followed by data management, digital storage, and indicating an emphasis on managing and storing data. For KM, it would be acquisition, showing a priority in capturing and developing organizational knowledge. That is the trend in terms of the last 10 years. Those ones have been the key priorities. And when I tried to ask AI, okay, these are the trends. Then I asked AI, how can it produce for me an image to capture these trends? This is what AI thought in terms of IM and KM. For KM in particular, you can see it's very much people-centric, and this is more as technology-centric. Then after that, I asked myself, KM and IM, Do they operate in isolation or are they interdisciplinary disciplines? And the finding tells us that business management and accounting actually represents the primary area of interest on the majority of the research in IM and KM. With business management having 39%, social science, our library science tend to be part of social science. Then decision science, because of things like big data. Where your research is heading to. A number of people saying they would like to know how they may apply AI in research and in their organizations. And these 10 papers gives you a good example of how papers on AI are top rated. But if someone asks you then how is AI related to our work, then we are comfortable because in information management, we are information managers. Knowledge management, we are knowledge managers, but our role as information managers is very much depicted because here I did not go to query AI trend, I went to query IM, but what we are seeing as the most significant papers are papers touching on AI. So KM and IM most impactful studies from the literature. It shows KM fosters innovation, very important, innovation. Competitive advantage, if you want to position your organization or your department. Job satisfaction, culture, and processes. IM, on the other hand, in terms of their trends over the last 10 years, it is giving us opportunities for technology adoption, AI, digital marketing, information systems, and something that is very important, issues to do with ethical considerations, because the fact that you might know how to come up with an AI that might make you pass an exam without going through the proper practice does not mean then you use it for such bad purposes. And that is where part of our work comes in, the ethical usage of some of these tools. So then the next thing I will be doing for the next 5 minutes is to think about us as librarians. We use social media and ICTs for knowledge management, for knowledge sharing. Such that every day, like today, I've used social media, I think, more than 5 times. A number of you are on the phones, and I'm sure they are on WhatsApp, which is social media. Some people in the morning, they checked Facebook, which gives us even news ahead of Nation, Standard, CNN, Citizen, and other forms. So what I would like you to do at this point is to go to menti.com, you put ALV 95 SBCCINX. All of you, that is our assignment. Mary, tafadhali, Menti, go to that URL so that we can do the assignment. And I'll also join you. menti.com/ALV95 SBCCINX. And the question is, which social media platforms do you regularly use? You query, I share the outcome, and then we see how it conforms with the international trends. It is rife, so the best thing is to click on it. No participation, no chai. Good, good. menti.com/ALV95SBCCINX. We are doing very well. Umeweka tayari? Sawa. Submit. Great stuff. Did you submit?
No, it has come something.
Huh?
It is showing me social platforms.
Yes, you said.
Yes.
And then I submit.
Dominic. Okay. We are still receiving the responses.
So we wait.
We are waiting for Dominic to show us is our IBC. Nevertheless, not everyone has voted. We wanted fair representation. Please vote. Yeah, there. Okay. So, surprisingly, TikTok carries the day. Very surprising finding. I would have expected that with Gen Z. Then WhatsApp follows, then YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram are each at one. The voting was not fair enough. The threshold did not reach the one I would have expected. Good. Please, just keep on voting so that we can be able to get a fair representation. It's quite easy. Are we done? Yes, please.
Supposed to say in, up in.
No, you are not supposed to sign. Just click on send the results. You're going to send yours, I think. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So these are the results of the people in this room. I used Menti to query that. Now, let me see what others are thinking about the same. Dominic, please. Yes, no, I wanted this to be predominant so that I can continue the presentation. These are not images. Okay, Wilson, umetumana? Sawa. So we've given our variations. As of April this year, the most used social platforms, Facebook was actually the leader, followed by YouTube, Instagram, which I hardly use, WhatsApp, which I personally use regularly. So TikTok, which was leading for our case, was actually number 5, but it's also one of the most significant social media applications being used. Okay, so from there then, as we wait for the person dealing with IT to come and help us sort out this, a study undertaken last year with a sample size of 331 knowledge management practitioners out of 500, 331 actually responded. In terms of using ICT tools to share knowledge, which is knowledge sharing is part of knowledge management, actually email, websites, file sharing, intranets were the leading. Social media, as of that time, LinkedIn was put as number 3. I did not see it today, but it was Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, then YouTube. And for collaborative tools, it was Google Docs, spreadsheets, and wikis. But the purposes which they were used for was producing knowledge, generating knowledge, acquiring knowledge, and capturing knowledge. That was a study involving 331 KM practitioners. The same study trying to figure out the promotion factors for knowledge sharing, and the culture was very significant, trust and the training, and then coming up with a KM strategy, social capital, leadership that is inspirational, driving KM, and putting up a reward system. Reward system is not necessarily finance, but even sending you to come and present, facilitate, be part of the delegates for a conference is part of reward system. So these are a KM enablers. The problem we are having is we don't want to see those things. Let him handle this, then we continue. So when we talk of promotion factors, those were the findings. Of course, when you promote, you also have factors which are disruptive, isn't it? Obstructors. They are grouped into three. Individual, you as an individual having struggles like using technology or having a struggle of refusing to share knowledge. Those are individual barriers. Then we have organizational barriers, like the organization not supporting knowledge management strategies, not giving you budget for it, not creating an environment where people can learn even share what they have learned. Then we had technology-driven barriers, compatibility between technologies, issues to do with technology, people not being able to understand certain aspects of the technology. So there are three: individual barriers, organizational barriers, and technology barriers. Then within every group, so within every group, there is brush, where upon for individual barriers, we have lack of time, low awareness of the value of sharing knowledge, the cultural differences, and lack of trust. Especially trust is a key thing. For the organizational barriers, we talked about policies, lack of leadership, lack of reward system, and support from top management. And technology, lack of integrating technology, and of course, lack of ICTs and lack of training on the technology. Then after that, we went on to check what might be the strategies which might be used for promoting knowledge management or sharing. The most significant strategies were three: getting support from top management, fostering a knowledge sharing culture, and embracing the concept of running organization. Other strategies were like creating communities of practice and establishing reward systems. Best practice was to align your knowledge management strategy with organizational strategy, and you try to simplify the usage of tools. However, one solution does not fit all. For we know for sure the knowledge management strategy of an organization would be different from the other organization based on the vision and mission of a given organization. So the